Abu Azrael is a well-seasoned fighter. The 37-year-old picked up weapons for the first time more than 10 years ago. Back in the 2000s, he was fighting against the United States. At the time, he was on their list of wanted terrorists.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Let's take a look at the Iraqi Rambo. Let's go.
Whenever he steps out of his car, it only takes seconds before people crowd around Abu Azrael. These Baghdadis all want their picture with the man who many see as a national hero.
I'm ready to do anything.
Now, for you guys that know about this fella, he's a national hero, but why? Do they know what he's done? No, he became very special, popular on social media. He's one of the first freedom fighters, we'll call it, that used social media to his advantage. 2 cell phones, Facebook posts, had a slogan, had a cartoon at one point.
For him, anything, I swear. You're everything to me.
People worship Abu Azrael, a nom de guerre which literally translates to the father of the angel of death in Arabic. The Shiite militiaman is the most renowned fighter in Iraq. His bravery has turned him into a living legend in a country still in...
You got to remember, the Shiite in this case were funded by Iranian terrorist group Hezbollah. So you hear that and you go, why would he be celebrated? We'll keep going to get to the point how he's now backed by the U.S.
after the Islamic State ousted the Iraqi army last summer.
I stand by my words. That's why people prefer having me instead of a dishonest politician who announces measures on TV but does nothing.
Abu Azrael has spent all night in Fallujah district fighting the Islamic State organization. In the trunk lies his equipment, always at hand.
So you hear that and you say, well, he's fighting ISIS. He's got to be our friend, right? As we've seen, our friends, our foes change pretty radically. Do we fight ISIS? Do we fight the Taliban? Do we fight the Iranian-backed Hezbollah? Who knows? It seems like it's day to day who actually is our enemy.
Wow. That's an M4 with a grenade launcher. These are explosives. A grenade, a smoke bomb. This is another smoke bomb. All this is nothing to me. It's all peanuts.
So it looks like he's got the best of the U.S. weaponry, right? Small arms, funded by us, your tax dollars at work. This guy could be the best thing since sliced bread for all I know. But at one point, he was on the U.S. terror watch list, was a high-value target. All of a sudden, he becomes our friend. Where is he at today? Still trying to get my arms around that.
Abu Azrael is a regular at this gym. He comes to work out, but more importantly, to meet up with his brothers in arms. The atmosphere is light-hearted, yet these bodybuilders all belong to a Shiite militant group backed by Iran.
We belong to the Imam Ali brigades. We've been training in Lebanon with Hezbollah and in the Islamic Republic of Iran. This training's been going on for a long time. We've been practicing for years on the streets of Iraq.
So we as a country have a short memory. You remember back to the Marine embassy bombing, or Marine barracks bombing in Iran by Hezbollah. Now we're funding the Iranian-backed Hezbollah through this fella, the Iraqi Rambo. Is it a good thing? I guess we've got a moving target. Can we trust a man like this to be on our side when we want to? Probably not.
Abu Azrael is a well-seasoned fighter. The 37-year-old picked up weapons for the first time more than 10 years ago. Back in the 2000s, he was fighting against the United States. At the time, he was on their list of wanted terrorists. Since then, the front lines have shifted. The US now supports Abu Azrael's militia in their fight against the jihadists.
He's the Iraqi Rambo, the Daesh killer.
The Iraqi
Now, if you've got a guy that was fighting against the U.S. forces, no doubt he killed some U.S. forces. Do you have a zero tolerance policy where he did it, he was on the bad guy list, we terminate the relationship? Or do we make friends with him and utilize him? I guess it depends if your kid was the one that died, how much he brings to the table.
Rambo, a nickname owed to these movies which he shot with his mobile phone and posted online on social media. Illa Tahin, grind you to dust, a war cry he first used last March. In a couple of weeks, it reached more than 2 million views. Abu Azrael soon posted another video.
So you can see how social media picks and chooses winners, right? This was on Facebook, 2 million views, right? Is it a good thing, bad thing? Well, I guess Facebook was the arbiter of that decision. And when he becomes a foe is to be determined.
His slogan was echoed by thousands of people. A warning to the jihadi group that went viral beyond the borders of Iraq, Spain, Sweden, and even Thailand. Even a cartoon was made to present the new face of the fight against terrorism. The militiaman is seen defending the oppressed. Here, he beats up a major leader from the Islamic State organization.
I know most recently, we've befriended the Taliban to an extent in Afghanistan. You're looking back at this, he was fighting the Taliban and ISIS. It gets really complicated because these friends, foes, seems like they've changed throughout the war multiple times.
His brigade is made in the star of its Hollywood-like propaganda movies. This morning, Abu Azrael is all geared up on his way to the front line. He's armed with grenades, a rifle, but also 2 high-tech smartphones that he films with at all times. A way to reach out to his fans from the battlefield.
Now, I've asked this question in the poll several times. What's the most powerful weapon at our disposal? Is it nuclear, biological, psyops, right? Social media, communications are cheap and fast today. And you can see without the social media presence, he wouldn't have the support he does from his countrymen. Most of them don't really know what he does in total. They know he seems like a positive, charismatic man, helping a cause, right? He's got that great social media presence and charisma. Social media provides a way to have a devastating weapon at a cheap cost to any group.
We're heading for the front line. Guys don't think we're just here to take pictures. Look over there, the smoke coming out of the refinery. You see, that's Daesh's flag.
He immediately shares his videos on the internet in order to counter jihadist propaganda.
I'm checking with Facebook. It's the official Abu Azrael page. I have 221,000 followers. We're here to film, to send.
Now, it's hard to believe that could stay up on Facebook in today's environment. You know, he shows them setting off mortars, firing weapons. It looks like it's in a terrible place on the globe. How he could do that, it's a good question. Who dictates what's right and what's wrong on that platform?
Message to the enemy. They're only here to kill and destroy, and they film all of it. So what we do is the same. We film ourselves defending the Iraqi people.
A propaganda battle between armed groups fought here, 150 kilometers north of Baghdad, in Salahuddin province. On both sides of this road, jihadi territory.
Now you hear him say we're defending the Iraqi people, right? So you got Sunnis and Shiites. He's a Shiite. So you say, well, who is the Iraqi people? Is it his group of Iraqi people? Your group of Iraqi people? It's not a very simple answer here when you get into countries like this that have these tribal battles.
Daesh is about 500 meters away, in this building here. Do you see it? Over there in the distance. Now we're entering a very dangerous area. We're surrounded by Daesh. We only control the road. Don't be surprised if you hear gunshots.
The fighter regularly meets army generals. They've called on him to secure the country's main oil refinery, Baiji. They say this mission would be impossible without the support of the Shiite militias.
What I find the most fascinating, reading up on this guy, he's never run into an IED in his travels. They weren't worried whatsoever about it. How he gets his information, his intel, I'm sure it's U.S. backed. Why there's no IEDs in his path, good question. How stuff doesn't leak when he's going out on these missions when you got news media. Sure as hell gets complicated.
The Iraqi Rambo is quickly surrounded by soldiers who all leave their positions and clamor to take selfies.
Daesh just needs to hear the name of Abu Azrael, and they run away from this place. They run.
The high-ranking officers hope that the militiamen will be able to put some enthusiasm back into their demotivated troops. Morale is low. The army just lost Ramadi, the capital of the largest province of the country.
He's a key person to lift the spirits of our troops.
While we're filming, we hear gunfire exchanges. The army doesn't move, but the first ones to head to the fight are Abu Azrael and his fighters. The Islamic State organization appears to be making an effort to infiltrate. The army tells us they're just behind the sand dune.
Who is the bad guy in these type of battles? Because it seems like it changes every day. 20 years later, I don't think we know.